Picture this. You've journeyed 1,000 miles. Every cent you own sunk into a one-way ticket to a horizon you've only ever seen in faded ink. The man waiting for you is a stranger, a name on a piece of paper, a promise whispered across a barren country. He is your last hope. The stagecoach groans to a halt, and the door opens onto a blast of heat and a world bleached white by the sun. You step down, your worn dress clinging to you, your hands clenched tight around the handle of a single, battered case. And then you see him. Standing by the post, tall and silent, is Elias Thorne. His face is a roadmap of hardship, carved by sun and sorrow, with a pale scar running from his left ear to the corner of his mouth, a permanent tightening of his expression. His eyes, the color of a stormy sky, scan the passengers. They pass over you once, then twice before they finally land and stay. And in that moment you see it, the flicker of disappointment, the almost imperceptible fall of his shoulders. The advertisement had asked for a sturdy woman, capable of frontier life. It was a word you clung to, a word that felt like an asset, not an insult. But the look in his eyes tells a different story. Says you are too much, too broad, too tall. In a world that prizes the delicate, you are a mountain. And as you stand there, under the crushing weight of the sun and his gaze, you have to wonder, have you just traded one cage for another? Elias Thorne did not speak for the first 3 miles of the wagon ride back to his ranch. The silence was a living thing, thick and heavy as the dust that billowed up behind them. Beatrice sat ramrod straight on the hard wooden bench, her gaze fixed on the endless expanse of sagebrush and rock. She could feel his presence beside her, a solid wall of unspoken regret. She had seen that look 100 times before, in the marketplace, where merchants' wives would whisper behind their hands. At dances she was never asked to attend. It was the look that said she took up too much space in the world. But this time it cut deeper. This was supposed to be a new beginning, a place where her strength of body and spirit would finally be valued. Instead, she had stepped from the dust into the heart of a man's shattered expectations. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough, like stones grinding together. The house is this way. Your cabin is just beyond it. Your cabin, not our house. The distinction was as sharp as a shard of glass. The Thorne Ranch, when it came into view, was breathtaking. It was a kingdom carved from the wilderness, a vast valley cradled by jagged, purple mountains. A river, a ribbon of silver, snaked through green pastures dotted with hundreds of cattle. The main house was a testament to his wealth, a 2-story structure of dark timber and river stone, with a wide porch and glass windows that glittered in the afternoon light. It was a palace of solitude. But he led her past it, to a small, simple cabin nestled in a grove of cottonwood trees. It was clean, sturdy, and utterly separate. "You'll find what you need in there," he said, his eyes avoiding hers as he unloaded her single case. "I take my meals alone. Cook for yourself. The hands eat in the bunkhouse. Your duties will be tending the main house garden, mending, and keeping the house in order." He turned to leave, a man fleeing a decision he already regretted. "Mr. Thorne," Beatrice's voice, though quiet, was firm, stopped him in his tracks. He turned slowly, his face an unreadable mask. The advertisement promised a partnership. A wife, her words hung in the air, a challenge and a plea. Elias's jaw tightened, the scar a stark white line against his tanned skin. The advertisement was a mistake. "I am not a man who can offer partnership. You can stay, earn your keep, and I will see you have passage back east come spring if you choose." He didn't wait for a reply. He simply walked away, his long strides eating up the distance between them, leaving her alone with the dust, the silence, and the hollow echo of a broken promise. Beatrice did not weep. Tears were a luxury she had long ago learned she could not afford. Instead, she entered the small cabin, ran a hand over the rough-hewn walls, and began to build a life from the ashes of her hope. She did not just tend the garden. She transformed it. The dry, neglected patch of earth became an oasis of life under her strong, capable hands. She coaxed stubborn seeds to sprout, her broad shoulders shielding the tender shoots from the harshest sun. She didn't just mend clothes. She patched the worn fabric of the ranch hand's lives with quiet acts of kindness, offering a thoughtfully prepared biscuit or a cool drink of water on a scorching day. They began to watch her with a respect that had nothing to do with her arrangement with Thorne and everything to do with her character. They saw a strength that went far beyond the physical. And Elias Thorne watched, too. From the window of his study, he saw her wrestling a broken fence post into place with a determination that shamed his younger hands. He smelled the scent of baking bread wafting from her cabin, a scent that hadn't graced this valley since his first wife, Maria, had been alive. Each meal he ate alone felt colder, emptier. He had built this ranch as a monument to Maria's memory, a fortress to keep the world, and any new attachments, at bay. He had requested a sturdy woman in his advertisement because he thought such a person would be practical, unemotional, a simple transaction. He had not expected a woman whose quiet dignity felt more powerful than the mountains that encircled them, whose resilience was a silent rebuke to his own withdrawn grief. One evening, a storm rolled in, a furious, biblical tempest that turned the sky to bruised purple and black. Rain fell in solid, blinding sheets. Thunder cracked like the world splitting apart. Elias was in the barn, securing a spooked mare, when a bolt of lightning struck an ancient oak near Beatrice's cabin. The tree exploded in a shower of sparks and flame. Without a thought, he was running, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs, a fear he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years clawing at his throat. He burst through the cabin door to find her not screaming, but calmly dousing embers that had landed on her porch with a bucket of water, her face set with grim determination, her silhouette framed by the raging storm. Her eyes met his, and in that instant, the distance between them collapsed. He saw not her size, but her courage. He saw a woman who stood her ground when the heavens themselves seemed to be falling. "The main house," he said, his voice hoarse. "It's safer," she simply nodded. And for the first time, she walked through the front door of his home not as a servant, but as a guest seeking shelter from a shared storm. That night, trapped by the relentless deluge, they spoke, surrounded by the ghosts of his past. Maria's portrait on the mantelpiece, her shawl still draped over a rocking chair, Elias found himself talking. He spoke of the fever that had taken his wife and infant son within a week of each other, a grief so profound it had scoured him hollow. He told her how he had poured that grief into the land, building an empire of emptiness, a testament to what he had lost. In turn, Beatrice spoke of her own life, a life of being overlooked, of being told her worth was less because her form was not fashionable. She spoke of a father who saw her only as a burden, a sister whose delicate beauty had always been praised while her own solid strength was ignored. It was not a plea for pity, but a simple statement of fact, delivered with a grace that left him breathless. "People see what they want to see, Mr. Thorne," she said, her gaze steady. "They look at me and see a problem to be solved or a thing to be ignored. They rarely see the person standing inside in the flickering lamplight. With the storm raging outside, Elias Thorne looked at Beatrice and, for the very first time, he truly saw her. He saw the kindness in her eyes, the intelligence in her words, and the unshakable strength of a spirit that refused to be broken. The storm outside was chaos and destruction, but inside the walls of his house, something new and fragile was beginning to take root in the calm. The weeks that followed were different. A tentative peace settled over the valley. Elias began taking his meals with Beatrice on the wide porch of the main house. The conversations were simple at first about the cattle, the weather, the progress of her garden. But slowly they deepened. He found himself asking for her opinion on ranch matters, and he discovered a sharp, practical mind that saw solutions he had missed. She, in turn, began to see past the scarred, stoic rancher to the lonely man beneath. She saw the way his hands, though calloused and rough, were gentle with a newborn calf. She saw the flicker of a smile when she told a story about one of the ranch hands. The fortress around his heart was crumbling, stone by stone. One afternoon, he found her by the river, her back to him, her shoulders shaking. He approached cautiously. For the first time, he saw her resolve falter. He reached out, his hand hovering over her shoulder before resting there gently. She didn't flinch. "I received a letter," she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "From back home. It seems my past is not as far behind me as I had hoped." Before he could ask more, the sound of an approaching carriage rattled down the lane. It was a fine, polished thing, utterly out of place in this rugged land, pulled by two magnificent black horses. A man stepped out, dressed in a tailored suit of expensive wool, his face smooth and arrogant. His cold, assessing eyes swept over the ranch and settled on Beatrice with a look of predatory ownership. "Beatrice, my dear, did you truly think you could hide from me out here in this wasteland?" The man's name was Silas Blackwood, a wealthy merchant from Beatrice's hometown, a man whose power was built on the debts of others. He was the reason she had fled, the past she had been trying to outrun. He had pursued her with proposals not of marriage, but of possession, seeing her as an unconventional but sturdy asset he could acquire, like a new piece of machinery for one of his mills. Her refusal had wounded his pride, an offense he could not tolerate. "Mr. Blackwood," Beatrice said, her voice trembling slightly but her back straightening. She stood to her full height, a defiant mountain before him. "You are not welcome here." Silas laughed, a thin, cruel sound. He produced a document from his coat pocket. "On the contrary, my dear, I am perfectly welcome. This," he said, waving the paper, "is a note for your father's debt, a debt I have generously acquired, a debt that gives me considerable influence over your family's affairs." And over you. Elias stepped forward, moving to stand beside Beatrice. It was not a dramatic gesture, but a simple, solid statement of allegiance. His presence was a silent anchor in her swirling fear. "This is my property," Elias said, his voice low and dangerous, "and this woman is under my protection. Your business is not with her. It is with me." Silas Blackwood's eyes narrowed, sizing Elias up. He saw a weathered rancher, a provincial millionaire with no concept of true power. "Protection?" he sneered. "This is a matter of law, not chivalry. Beatrice is tied to me by her father's foolishness. I came to collect what is mine." He took a step toward Beatrice, his hand outstretched as if to grab her arm. In that moment, something inside Elias, something that had been dormant for a decade, ignited. It was the fierce, primal instinct of a man protecting his home, his heart, his future. He moved with a speed that belied his size, his hand clamping down on Blackwood's wrist like a vice. "You will not touch her," he growled, and the sound was the rumble of an avalanche about to break loose. The ranch hands, drawn by the commotion, had gathered at a distance. They stood silent and watchful, their loyalty clear. They had seen Beatrice's quiet strength, her tireless work. They had seen the life she had breathed back into this valley and into their boss. She was one of them. This was her home. Blackwood tried to wrench his arm free, his face contorting with a mixture of pain and fury. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Rancher Elias's grip tightened. "And you have no idea where you are standing. This land doesn't care about your ledgers or your contracts. Out here, a person's worth is measured by their character. And by that measure, you are bankrupt." He released Blackwood's wrist, shoving him back a step. The arrogant merchant stumbled, his polished shoes slipping in the dust. The mask of civility was gone, replaced by raw, ugly spite. "You think you've won?" he hissed, his gaze fixed on Beatrice. "You chose this scarred brood over me? You will regret this. I will ruin your family. I will see you all in the gutter." But his threats rang hollow in the vast, open air. They were the empty noises of a man whose power had vanished the moment he stepped into a world he did not understand. Elias looked at the document still clutched in Blackwood's hand. "How much?" he asked, his voice calm and cold. Blackwood, momentarily confused, stammered, "What?" "The debt. Your price. Name it." A greedy, triumphant glint returned to Blackwood's eyes. He named an exorbitant sum, a figure meant to cripple, to punish. Elias didn't flinch. He turned to his foreman. "Go to the safe. Bring me the amount Mr. Blackwood has requested." And add 20% for his travel expenses. The foreman nodded and strode toward the house, leaving Silas Blackwood standing in stunned silence. He had come here expecting to wield his power over a desperate woman and a simple farmer. He found himself facing a king in his own kingdom, a man whose wealth was not just in money, but in the unshakable loyalty of his people and the fierce clarity of his purpose. When the money was placed in his hands, Blackwood's face was a canvas of shock and humiliation. He had been beaten at his own game. He had been dismissed. He stared at the cash, then at Beatrice, his expression curdling into pure hatred. But there was nothing more to say. He had been rendered impotent. He scrambled back into his carriage, a defeated man fleeing a world where his kind of currency held no real value. The carriage clattered away, leaving a cloud of dust that slowly settled back to the earth, and then there was only silence. The ranch hands quietly dispersed, giving them their space. Beatrice stood frozen, the tears she had held back finally streaming down her face. They were not tears of fear, but of profound, overwhelming relief. Elias turned to her. He gently wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb, his touch hesitant but sure. "He's gone, Beatrice. He will never bother you again." She looked up at him, her eyes searching his. "Why?" she whispered. "You owed me nothing. You could have sent me away." His stormy eyes softened. He took both of her hands in his. "When I wrote that advertisement," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "I thought I was looking for someone to fill an empty space in my house. I was wrong. My house wasn't empty. My life was. I asked for a sturdy woman." Thinking of fence posts and hard winters, he gave a small, sad smile. "I had no idea I would find a woman with a spirit strong enough to hold up the sky, a heart big enough to heal a broken man. I wasn't just waiting for a mail-order bride, Beatrice. I see that now. I was waiting for you." He stepped closer, closing the last bit of distance between them. "This is your home now, if you'll have it. If you'll have me." And under the vast, open sky of the valley that was now hers as much as it was his, Beatrice smiled through her tears and finally came home. So, what does it mean to be judged by the cover the world gives you? How often do we mistake size for substance, or silence for weakness? Beatrice's story isn't just about finding a home on the frontier. It's about the courage to demand that the world see you for who you truly are, not for the shape you occupy. It's a reminder that true strength isn't about the absence of scars, but about the resilience to heal and the bravery to protect what you love. What fortress have you built around your own heart? And who might have the strength to help you tear it down? If this story of an unlikely love that bloomed in the dust resonated with you, let us know in the comments below. Your voice matters to us. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that prove that the greatest treasures are often found where we least expect them.